Hello, everyone. Got a few dirty jokes for you today.
So a fat woman in a bar says, "If you can guess how much I weigh, you can screw me." A bloke from the back shouts, "About 3 tons, you fat, ugly mole." She shouts back, "That's close enough, you lucky bastard." So a West Virginia mountain woman went to the doctor and was told to go home and return in a couple of days with a specimen. When she got home, she asked her husband, "What's a specimen?" He replied, "Danged if I know. Go next door and ask Edith. She's a nurse." So the woman went next door. About 20 minutes later, she came back, her clothes torn and her face and body covered in bruises. Her husband, shocked, asked, "What in the world happened?" "Danged if I know," she replied. "I asked Edith what a specimen was, and she told me to go piss in a bottle. I told her to go fart in a jug, and then all hell broke loose." So a new priest was starting his first day in the confessional. His predecessor had left him a list of sins and the appropriate penances. The door opened, and a man walked in. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned," he said. "I've stolen." The priest checked the list, found stealing, and said, "Say one Hail Mary." Next, a woman entered the confessional. "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I had oral sex with the window cleaner." The priest searched the list but couldn't find anything for oral sex. Confused, he opened the door and called out to the cleaning lady, "Hey, what does Father John give for a blowjob?" She replied, $12.50, but only if I take my teeth out. So all the brave knights were preparing to leave for the Crusades. One knight, concerned about his beautiful wife, said to his best friend, "My bride is without a doubt one of the most beautiful women in the world. It would be a shame if no man could ever have her. So, as my most trusted friend, I'm leaving you the key to her chastity belt, just in case I don't return from the crusade." The knights set off, and they had only traveled about a mile when they saw a cloud of dust approaching in the distance. Thinking it might be an urgent message from the town, they halted. The dust cleared to reveal the knight's best friend, riding hard to catch up. As he approached, he shouted, "Hey, you gave me the wrong key." Long ago, there sailed a fearless officer of the Royal Navy named Captain Bravado. He was known for his bravery and never showing fear in the face of battle. One day, while sailing the 7 seas, the lookout spotted a pirate ship approaching. The crew began to panic, but Captain Bravado remained calm. "Bring me my red shirt," he bellowed. A first mate fetched the captain's red shirt, and with it on, Captain Bravado led his crew into battle, defeating the pirates. That evening, as the men sat on deck, one of them asked, "Captain, why did you ask for your red shirt before the fight?" The captain replied, "If I were wounded, the red shirt would hide the blood, and you men would keep fighting without fear." The crew marveled at his courage. The next morning, the lookout spotted not 1, not 2, but 10 pirate ships approaching. The crew looked to Captain Bravado, waiting for his command. With unwavering resolve, the captain gazed at the approaching armada and shouted, "Bring me my brown pants." So 2 nuns, Sister Marilyn and Sister Helen, are traveling through Europe in their car. When they reach Transylvania, they stop at a traffic light. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a tiny Dracula leaps onto the hood of the car and starts hissing through the windshield. Quick, quick! What should we do? Shouts Sister Marilyn, the younger nun. Turn on the windshield wipers, says the older and wiser Sister Helen. That'll shake him off. Sister Marilyn flips on the wipers, but though they knock Dracula around, he clings to the hood, still hissing. What do I do now? She asks, panicking. Use the windshield washer, says Sister Helen calmly. I filled it with holy water when we were at the Vatican. Sister Marilyn sprays the holy water. Dracula screams as it burns his skin, but he stubbornly holds on, still hissing. Now what? Shouts Sister Marilyn. Show him your cross, says Sister Helen. Great idea, says Sister Marilyn. She rolls down the window, leans out, and yells, Get the hell off our car, you bastard! So an elderly farmer had owned a large property for many years. On his land, he had a dam in one of the lower paddocks, where he had planted mango and avocado trees. The dam was fixed up for swimming, and he even had picnic tables placed in the shade of the fruit trees. One evening, the old farmer decided to check on the dam since he hadn't been there in a while. He grabbed a 10-liter bucket to collect some fruit. As he approached the dam, he heard voices shouting and laughing. When he got closer, he saw a group of young women skinny dipping in the water. Noticing his presence, they quickly swam to the deep end. One of the women shouted, We're not coming out until you leave. The old man frowned and replied, I didn't come down here to watch you swim naked or to make you get out naked. Holding up the bucket, he said, I'm here to feed the crocodile. So 3 golfers had an important game with a client in Arizona. They were running late, and to make things worse, their car broke down. Luckily, they found a repair shop nearby. The mechanic told them it would take about 4 hours to fix the car. But then he added, You're in luck. I've got a camel you can ride to the golf course. This camel's smart. It can read stoplights. It'll stop and go, just like a car. With no other option, the 3 golfers piled onto the camel, golf clubs and all, and took off. About an hour later, the mechanic saw them walking down the road, no camel in sight. He rushed over and asked, What happened? And where's my camel? One of the golfers replied, Well, we stopped at a light, and a car pulled up next to us. The guy in the car stuck his head out the window and said, Look at the 3 nuts on that camel. We got off to check, and the camel took off when the light turned green. So, a newly divorced woman is strolling along the beach, disappointed about how horribly the divorce settlement turned out for her. As she's walking, she spots an old lamp half buried in the sand. Hopelessly, she picks it up and rubs the lamp, and to her surprise, a genie appears. The genie notices she is upset and lets her vent before proceeding to grant her 3 wishes. However, he cautions her that he is not a fan of divorce and will give her ex-husband 10 times of whatever she wishes. She winces, but asks for her first wish. I wish to have $1 billion. Poof! The next second, mountains of crisp banknotes amounting to $1 billion surround her. Her happiness is short-lived as the genie reminds her, Your ex-husband now has $10 billion. What's your next wish? Her face has started to turn red, but she composes herself. I wish for a 25,000-foot private mansion on this beach. Instantly, a beautifully luxurious mansion with all modern facilities appears in front of her. Before she could revel in the joy, the genie pointed her in a direction where, to her horror, stood 10 similar, magnificent mansions. Now, what's your final wish? The woman smiled and said, I wish to give birth to twins. So a Frenchman, an Englishman, and a New Yorker are exploring the jungle when they're captured by a fierce tribe. The chief says, "The bad news is, we're going to kill you and use your skins to build a canoe. The good news is, you get to choose how you die." The Frenchman steps forward and says, "I will take the poison." The chief hands him a vial, the Frenchman declares, "Viva la France," and drinks it. Next, the Englishman says, "A pistol for me, please." The chief gives him a pistol, and the Englishman says, "God save the Queen," before pulling the trigger. Finally, the New Yorker steps up and says, "Give me a fork." The chief is confused, but hands him a fork. The New Yorker takes the fork and starts stabbing himself all over his stomach, his chest, his sides, blood pouring out from everywhere. The chief, horrified, yells, "What are you doing?" The New Yorker looks at him and says, "Good luck on your damn canoe, you bastards." So one night, a man and a woman meet at a bar and knock back a few beers. After about an hour, the man says, "Hey, how about we go back to my place for some fun?" No strings attached, just one night. The woman agrees. They head to her place, and as the man waits in the bedroom, she goes into the bathroom and starts scrubbing up like she's preparing for surgery. She scrubs for a solid 10 minutes. Finally, she joins him in the bedroom, and they make love for about an hour. Afterward, the man says, "You're a surgeon, aren't you?" Surprised, she asks, "Yeah, how did you know?" He replies, "I could tell by how thoroughly you scrubbed up before we started." The woman nods. "Makes sense. You're an anesthesiologist, aren't you?" The man, even more surprised, says, "Yeah, how did you figure that out?" She smirks and replies, "Because I slept through most of it and didn't feel a thing." So a Bible study group was discussing the possibility of their sudden death. The discussion leader said, "We all know we're going to die someday, but none of us knows exactly when. If we did, we'd probably do a better job preparing ourselves for that day." Everyone nodded in agreement. Then the leader asked, "What would you do if you knew you only had 4 weeks left before your death and the great judgment day?" One man said, "I'd go out into my community and share the gospel with those who haven't yet accepted the Lord." "Very good," said the leader, and the group agreed that would be a noble thing to do. A woman chimed in, "I'd dedicate my remaining time to serving God, my family, my church, and my fellow man with greater devotion." "Wonderful," the leader replied, and again the group agreed. Then a man in the back spoke up and said, "I'd go to my mother-in-law's house for the 4 weeks." Everyone looked puzzled. The leader asked, "Why your mother-in-law's house?" The man grinned and said, "Because that would be the longest 4 weeks of my life." So it was time for Father John's Saturday night bath, and young Sister Magdalene had prepared the water and towels just as instructed by the old nun. She was also told not to look at Father John's nakedness, to do whatever he asked, and to pray. The next morning, the old nun asked Sister Magdalene how the bath had gone. "Oh, sister," the young nun said dreamily, "I've been saved." "Saved? How did that happen?" the old nun inquired. "Well, when Father John was soaking in the tub, he asked me to wash him. As I was washing him, he guided my hand down between his legs, saying, 'That's where the Lord keeps the key to heaven.'" "Did he really?" asked the old nun, maintaining her composure. Sister Magdalene continued, "Father John said that if the key to heaven fit my lock, the portals of heaven would be open to me, granting me salvation and eternal peace. Then he guided his key to heaven into my lock. Is that so? The old nun replied even more evenly. It hurt at first, Sister Magdalene admitted. But Father John said the path to salvation is often painful, and that the glory of God would soon fill my heart with ecstasy. And it did. It felt so good being saved. The old nun sighed and said, "That damn old prick. He told me it was Gabriel's horn, and I've been blowing it for 40 years."